Hello. Okay, quick survey of hands, even though I can't actually see it, you can just look amongst yourselves. How many of you play video games on any kind of a regular basis? And like Minecraft, console, PC, Call of Duty, Angry Birds, Solitaire, Minesweeper? Like, yeah, get them up. I know most of you. Don't lie. So, for context, 2016, the revenue for the film industry was $30 billion, while in 2016, video game revenue exceeded $90 billion, and that's growing. It grew by 8% this year, while film was only 2%. So in 12 years, World of Warcraft players have put in over 50 billion hours in that game. And another example is a game called League of Legends, which currently has over 100 million active monthly users. Video games are now one of the most important and culturally relevant influences we have. Okay, so let's talk about empathy. Total switch. So it's defined as the vicarious experience of feelings or thoughts observed in another. For example, our ability to empathize with how not cool getting murdered is what helps like society from breaking down. Psychologists believe empathy is a learned behavior developed by children through mimicry and later through role-playing. The word empathy comes from the German word Einfühlung, which means feeling into, and was originally used to explore and describe the affective qualities of art. It's also an apt description for what video games are capable of, creating environments that enable role-taking in safe and structured fashion. It's important because some form of role-taking, role-playing is pivotal to engendering empathy in adults, not just in children. So I've got a couple examples coming up, and I'm going to start with a really bad one. So this is from a game called Call of Duty. I didn't make this up. You press F to pay your respects to a fallen comrade, and it's a classic case of. So there's an old aphorism, show don't tell, and I think in video games the version of that is to don't show the players doing things, have them do it. So an excellent systems-based version of this is SimCity 2000, old classic game that has a player grow and manage a city while contesting with lack of funds, taxes, and sometimes uncooperative constituencies. Another example is a game more recently called Kart Life. It's something similar to SimCity, except it takes it down to a very personal level. It follows 3 street vendors throughout their kind of day-to-day, and it gets very personal because not only do you have this economic simulation of, okay, you're setting the prices of your newspapers and trying to have everything work out, you're also dealing with things like, for example, one of the characters is a single mother, and you actually have to balance your time between working and affording, food and healthcare with spending time with your child. It's a form of personalizing these kinds of things in a meaningful way. This still is from a movie called Eye in the Sky. It's essentially about the decision to launch a drone strike to kill terrorists when there is known to be collateral damage in the area. A little girl would die if that shot is launched. It's an illustration of the trolley problem. It's a philosophy kind of 101 lesson. It's a method for determining moral systems. The problem is that these kinds of questions and examinations often don't become personally relevant until people are making those decisions for themselves. And that's where I think video games can be very important. So this is a game called Papers, Please, where you play as a border guard in a fictional country called Arstotzka. It's troubled, and your decisions there affect not only yourself and your family, but also the lives of all of those trying to cross over the border. So, for example, do you let this mother and child with improper papers, do you let them through, knowing full well that if they don't get through, that may be bad for their health, but at the same time, if you're caught letting them through, then you personally will suffer the negative. You have overseers and this kind of familial component to the game, and also the personal responsibility on top of dealing with the fact that you're grossly underpaid, you're dealing with, it's a kid, and maybe, in fact, taking a bribe might be the best way to go through this. It's easy to make decisions on paper, and it's wholly different when you're actually presented with those situations. So this is a still from I don't know if you'd call it a game, but it's called Machine to Be Another. New technology is creating new opportunities to instill empathy, and this is a VR setup in which a pair of individuals dons VR headsets and has their views swapped. They're then instructed to match each other's movements and to move in synchrony. Many participants found the experience to be profoundly moving, mothers paired with their daughters, men with women, and best friends together. What they found is it was a contextualization of the other. A final example, this is a game called EVE Online. It's a great big space MMO in space. So MMO means massively multiplayer online game. Basically, everyone's playing together in a world. There's lots of MMOs, but what makes EVE special is that the economy, politics, government, like everything is set out by the players. And the result is that EVE Online more closely reflects the real world in both good and bad ways. You have governors, generals, managers, but then also spies and saboteurs. There have been battles that lasted days and conflicts that lasted years. A battle involving almost 10,000 people happened because someone forgot to pay their power bill, or the equivalent in that game. It's life in microcosm, and it's teaching us a great deal, not only about ourselves as humans, but also on an individual level about who we are and who we can be. And so that's my talk. I think video games are very powerful for us and can greatly inspire us, but also teach us about things. Anyway, thank you.